Welcome back to the channel, where every moment we dive deeper into the heart of the NFL, and today's story is one for the history books. If you thought this offseason had already reached its peak, buckle up, because what just happened might go down as one of the most unexpected and game-changing moves the league has seen in years. The Dallas Cowboys, yes, America's team, have found themselves smack dab in the middle of a shocking trade that nobody saw coming. Insiders were stunned, fans were left speechless, and even rival teams have been scrambling to understand the ripple effect. It all unfolded so quickly that by the time most people had finished their morning coffee, the landscape of the NFC had already shifted dramatically. Let's unpack what happened, how it happened, and most importantly what this means for the Cowboys' immediate and long-term future. Early this morning, the NFL world was rocked by breaking news involving a massive 3-team trade deal that appeared out of nowhere. What started as whispers from sources close to the league quickly escalated into full-blown confirmation by major reporters, and at the center of it all were the Dallas Cowboys, who somehow went from observers to major players in just a matter of hours. The trade was so complex, so layered, that by the time the final details were released, it became clear that the Cowboys hadn't just made a move, they had been pulled into a transaction that could either elevate them to championship contention or derail everything they'd been building toward. So here's what we know. The trade involved the Baltimore Ravens, the Arizona Cardinals, and the Dallas Cowboys. On paper, it looked like the Ravens were shopping one of their disgruntled playmakers. The Cardinals were seeking to move up in draft equity and create cap space, and the Cowboys were positioned to make a statement. But it wasn't a statement they wrote themselves. According to multiple insiders, the Cowboys initially entered the conversation simply as a facilitator. They were going to help the Ravens offload a big contract by absorbing a player and maybe get a late-round pick in return. But as talks intensified, the situation spiraled into something nobody expected. The player at the center of all this? None other than Marlon Humphrey, the Pro Bowl cornerback from the Ravens. Reports surfaced last week that Baltimore was quietly shopping him due to concerns over long-term durability and their desire to create financial flexibility. The Cardinals, who are in a full-scale rebuild, were reportedly interested in acquiring future draft capital and young depth. And the Cowboys? They became the unexpected beneficiary or the unwitting participant depending on how you interpret the aftermath. According to Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport, the Cowboys agreed to send a second-round pick in 2026 and edge rusher Sam Williams to Baltimore. In exchange, Dallas would receive Marlon Humphrey and a conditional fourth-round pick from Arizona, who also shipped offensive lineman Josh Jones to Dallas to sweeten the pot. The moment this deal was announced, social media exploded. Cowboys fans were divided. Some were thrilled that Dallas had landed a top-tier cornerback in Humphrey, especially considering the uncertainty surrounding Trevon Diggs' health and the overall state of the secondary. Others were furious, arguing that Dallas gave up too much future capital and depth for a player whose best years may be behind him. And while Jones could provide much-needed O-line depth, the real question is, was this trade an act of brilliance or a sign of desperation? To understand how the Cowboys got caught in this whirlwind, you have to trace it back to the initial phone calls between Jerry Jones and Ravens GM Eric DeCosta. Sources claim that DeCosta reached out to gauge interest in Humphrey, expecting a polite decline. But instead, Jerry, who has never shied away from a bold move, expressed curiosity. From there, the Ravens brought in the Cardinals, who had cap space and an appetite for stockpiling picks. As the trade talks evolved, the Cowboys' roles shifted. What started as a light inquiry became a full-fledged commitment. And by the end of it, Dallas wasn't just helping, they were deeply entangled. One of the more puzzling elements of the deal is the inclusion of Sam Williams. The young edge rusher showed flashes of brilliance last season and was projected to take a leap in 2025. Losing him creates a significant gap in the Cowboys' defensive line rotation, especially as the team still negotiates with Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence enters the final stages of his prime. It also signals something deeper, a willingness by the Cowboys front office to gamble now, to win now, regardless of what it might cost in the long term. Let's talk about Marlon Humphrey for a moment. At his best, he's one of the most physical, intelligent, and versatile corners in the game. He can line up inside or outside, disrupt receivers at the line of scrimmage, and create turnovers at critical moments. But he's also battled injuries the last 2 seasons, missing time due to hamstring and pectoral issues. Baltimore's decision to move on wasn't purely financial, it was philosophical. They're trying to get younger, faster, and more flexible. And for the Cowboys to step in and take on not just his contract but the expectations that come with it? That's a huge risk. Meanwhile, Josh Jones provides a bit of a silver lining. The offensive lineman was underutilized in Arizona but has the tools to be a swing tackle or even compete for a starting spot if injuries arise. With Tyron Smith gone and Tyler Smith shifting around, the Cowboys needed reinforcement up front. Jones, while not a household name, could end up being one of the most important pieces of this entire trade if he develops properly under Mike McCarthy's system. The financials also tell a fascinating story. By taking on Humphrey's contract, the Cowboys now have to navigate a very tight salary cap situation. While restructures are possible and cap gymnastics are new to this front office, it does raise concerns about how they'll handle upcoming negotiations with stars like CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons. Was this move made with an all-in mentality for the season? If so, what happens if it doesn't pan out? What makes this story even more intriguing is how the rest of the NFC responded. Within hours of the trade being finalized, sources say the Philadelphia Eagles began calling around to bolster their secondary. The San Francisco 49ers, too, reportedly re-engaged with free agents they had previously cooled on. It's a domino effect that shows just how seismic this trade really is. When a team like Dallas makes a move of this magnitude, the rest of the conference pays attention and acts accordingly. There's also a psychological layer to all of this. For years, critics have accused the Cowboys of playing it safe, of refusing to pull the trigger on high-risk, high-reward deals. But this trade completely flips that narrative. Whether by design or by accident, Dallas has become one of the most aggressive teams this offseason. From drafting bold prospects to shaking up their coaching staff, and now this blockbuster trade, they're making it known that mediocrity is no longer acceptable. The goal is clear: get to the NFC Championship, if not the Super Bowl, and do it now. Of course, the skeptics are out in full force. Some analysts argue that Humphrey isn't worth the draft capital or the cap hit. Others believe that the Cowboys are once again mortgaging their future for a shot in the dark. And then there are those who see this as a smokescreen, a way to distract from deeper roster issues that haven't been fully addressed. But no matter where you stand, there's no denying that this trade has changed the tone of the entire Cowboys offseason. Players have also reacted, some publicly and some behind the scenes. Micah Parsons tweeted a cryptic message shortly after the news broke, writing, "Let's go then. Time to cook." That's either a show of confidence or a challenge to the front office to keep adding pieces. Trevon Diggs, meanwhile, posted an emoji with wide eyes and a lock, perhaps suggesting he's ready to partner with Humphrey and shut down opposing receivers. Either way, the locker room is now on notice. The front office made a move, they expect results. For head coach Mike McCarthy, this could be a defining moment. The pressure is already immense heading into the 2025 season. With questions about his job security lingering and expectations at an all-time high, McCarthy must now integrate a star cornerback, adjust his defensive strategy, and get results fast. Dan Quinn, who returned to Dallas after brief flirtations with head coaching offers, will be instrumental in making this work. If anyone can get the best out of Humphrey, it's Quinn. But the clock is ticking. Cowboys Nation is buzzing, debating, analyzing, and yes, arguing. That's what happens when your team becomes the epicenter of the biggest NFL shocker of the day. But here's the bottom line: love it or hate it, the Cowboys are no longer standing still. They're moving. And fast. Whether that movement takes them to a division title or leads to more heartbreak remains to be seen. But one thing's for sure: this trade will be talked about all season long. So what's next for Dallas? Insiders believe the front office isn't done. With this trade setting the tone, don't be surprised if more moves follow. That could mean bringing in a veteran linebacker, adding another weapon on offense, or even flipping some of their remaining draft picks for short-term help. The Cowboys have made their intentions clear. They believe their Super Bowl window is now, and they're going to do everything they can to kick it wide open. This was more than just a trade. It was a message, a declaration, a challenge to the rest of the NFL. The Cowboys got caught in a game-changing deal, and whether they came out better or worse for it remains to be seen. But one thing is undeniable: they're all in. And for a team that's spent decades trying to recapture past glory, maybe this bold, chaotic, and unexpected move is exactly what they needed. Thanks for watching, and if you found this breakdown insightful, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more Cowboys content, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think this trade makes the Cowboys true contenders, or have they bitten off more than they can chew? Either way, stay locked in. The NFL never sleeps, and neither do we.